Most people act differently at work than they do at home. Those shifts aren't accidental, they are masks, small changes in behavior we use to fit a role or protect ourselves. You might offer a polite smile in a meeting when you're nervous, say you're fine to avoid a long conversation, or post only the best moments on social media. In this video we'll explore the simple reasons behind those habits, wanting acceptance, avoiding conflict, keeping a sense of safety, and how they shape our choices and relationships. First, we'll point out easy signs a mask is on, explain when a mask can be helpful and when it becomes limiting, and give practical, low-effort steps to be more authentic without creating unnecessary friction. If you want clearer relationships and a better sense of who you are under the social layers, this will give you useful, everyday tools to start. How social personas are formed. People adjust their behavior to fit the expectations of others, and those adjustments gradually shape the faces they show to the world. In everyday life this looks like simple role-taking. An employee speaks formally in a meeting, a parent soothes a child with a soft voice, and a friend jokes in casual company. Social settings carry cues about what is appropriate, and people read those cues, often without conscious thought. Over time, repeated reactions from others, smiles, approval, criticism, teach which ways of acting work best in each setting. Observation and imitation play a large part in how a persona takes shape. Children watch parents and adults and copy their speech patterns, gestures, and responses. Peers provide models during adolescence, and co-workers show the norms of a workplace. Feedback then prunes those initial attempts. Praise or success reinforces certain behaviors, while embarrassment or rejection discourages others. A person who is rewarded for being organized at work will keep showing up as reliable there. Small, repeated interactions create durable habits. Choices and compromises also influence the mix of traits a person offers. People often hold different values in different contexts, and they prioritize which values to display. Some choose to emphasize competence in professional settings and warmth in personal ones. Others may conceal vulnerability to avoid judgment, and that concealment becomes part of their public self. These decisions can feel strategic, but they also become internalized. Acting a certain way often changes how one thinks about oneself. When the outward role matches inner values, the persona feels natural. When it does not, people experience tension and may either adjust their behavior or rethink their inner beliefs. Practical awareness helps loosen unhelpful patterns. Noticing where you habitually change, what you say, how you sit, which stories you tell, reveals the contours of your social masks. Asking honest questions to trusted friends or testing small changes in behavior can show which parts of a persona are useful and which feel imposed. For instance, trying a more relaxed tone with colleagues in a safe moment can reveal whether that approach improves connections. Clearer boundaries and small experiments make it possible to shape social personas intentionally rather than merely inherit them. Fear of rejection and adaptation patterns. Rejection activates a very real response in the body and mind, and many people unconsciously change themselves to avoid it. Brain studies have shown that social exclusion can trigger activity in the same regions involved in physical pain, which helps explain why being left out or criticized feels so sharp. In everyday life this translates into small and large adjustments, choosing neutral opinions at a meeting to avoid conflict, laughing at a joke you do not find funny, or softening your language around family members who react strongly. These are sensible, often automatic moves aimed at keeping ties intact and reducing immediate discomfort. Patterns of adaptation develop over time and tend to follow recognizable shapes. Some people become high adapters, constantly monitoring others' reactions and shifting tone, words, or even posture to fit the environment. Others stick to a narrower mask, changing only in certain settings such as work or family gatherings. Code switching between social groups is a common example, using formal language and restraint at the office, then relaxing at home. A practical example is an employee who emphasizes teamwork and agreement in clients' presence, while quietly disagreeing with the same colleagues in private. The adaptation feels effective because it preserves relationships and opens doors, but it can also create inner friction. Consequences emerge when masking becomes the default rather than a conscious choice. Emotional exhaustion is a frequent outcome. Maintaining an external persona takes steady effort and mental energy. Relationships may feel shallow when one or both people are frequently hiding preferences or concerns. Consider someone who consistently downplays stress to avoid burdening friends. The friends believe everything is fine, and the stressed person loses opportunities for genuine support. On the other hand, adaptation has pragmatic benefits. it can help secure job opportunities, diffuse tense conversations, and protect personal safety in risky situations. Balancing those benefits against the cost is the complex work many people face. Practical steps help shift from automatic masking toward more intentional adaptation. Start with small experiments, share a modest preference in a low-stakes context and observe the response. For instance, state a different coffee order or suggest an alternative meeting time and note whether relationships change. Reflective practices, such as journaling about moments when you altered your behavior, reveal patterns over weeks. In social settings, use simple signals to test honesty, ask one genuine question and answer it honestly, to see if reciprocity follows. At work, prepare a concise, value-driven way to express disagreement that preserves professionalism. This reduces the impulse to simply agree. Choosing where to be authentic is also important. Not every context requires full disclosure, and selective authenticity can be protective. Close relationships are the appropriate places to lower masks gradually, because they provide the feedback loop and support needed to integrate different parts of the self. When repeated attempts to be open are met with dismissal or contempt, it is appropriate to reassess those connections. Seeking environments with clearer norms for openness, such as supportive teams or therapy groups, makes authenticity easier and less risky. Longer-term change often involves building skills rather than forcing a sudden overhaul. Practice assertive communication, learn to tolerate brief discomfort, and cultivate a few trusted people who respond with respect. Over time, these patterns reduce the reflexive fear of rejection and make adaptation a tool rather than a trap. Real change tends to be gradual, marked by small tests, small recoveries, and a growing sense that fitting in does not have to mean losing oneself. The cost of constant performance. Constantly managing the face we show others takes real mental effort. This effort, often called emotional labor, means deliberately shaping your expressions, tone, and reactions to fit what a job, a relationship, or a social setting expects. For many people this is an everyday requirement: servers who must smile through rudeness, managers who rehearse neutral responses to criticism, parents who hide worry so children do not become anxious. The daily practice of masking feelings requires attention and self-control, which leaves fewer resources for other tasks. That extra cognitive load shows up in small ways. You might find it harder to concentrate after long stretches of social performance. Simple decisions feel more draining by the end of the day. Short breaks do help, but constant smoothing of emotions chips away at energy reserves. People often describe this as tiredness that does not go away with sleep alone. There are also emotional consequences to consider. When someone repeatedly denies or silences their true feelings, those emotions do not disappear. They can build up and emerge in less controlled contexts, like a sudden outburst with family or a sense of numbness that makes it hard to connect. Relationships can become thinner when one or both people habitually present edited versions of themselves. Conversations stay polite but avoid the deeper worries and needs that strengthen trust. The body responds too. Chronic stress from long-term performance can worsen sleep quality, increase muscle tension, and make headaches or stomach discomfort more common. Creativity and problem-solving suffer as well, because the brain is busy monitoring social signals instead of exploring new ideas. In workplaces where a fixed persona is rewarded, always upbeat, always decisive, people may avoid admitting uncertainty, and that can reduce learning and innovation over time. Practical examples help make this concrete. A customer service worker smiles for 8 hours while handling complaints, then goes home feeling empty. A person who keeps a calm, competent front at work may collapse into exhaustion alone, unable to ask for help. Someone curating a bright, successful online presence can feel lonelier, because offline conversations about real struggles become harder. Each case shows how the short-term advantages of smoothing social interactions can create longer-term costs. Recognizing the cost is the first step to addressing it. Small adjustments, brief honest conversations with trusted people, scheduled breaks where performance is not required, or finding a setting where vulnerability is accepted, reduce the strain. Change does not need to be dramatic. Even allowing a few moments each day to check in with your own feelings can restore some of the mental space that constant performance takes away. Moving toward authenticity safely. Authenticity often unfolds as a careful balance between inner truth and outer safety. People rarely switch from a protected persona to full openness overnight. Social roles, workplace hierarchies, family expectations, and cultural norms shape the risks of being more open. Assessing context first helps. Consider who has real influence over your well-being, what consequences are likely, and whether you have allies nearby. Small missteps matter less when you know the landscape. Begin with clear, practical steps you can take without exposing yourself to undue harm. Start by naming one specific behavior that feels inauthentic, perhaps agreeing too quickly in meetings, hiding a creative interest, or avoiding discussions about mental health. Practice short, scripted phrases such as, "First notice, first tend to agree quickly, first I'd like to pause and reflect," or, "First find this topic difficult to discuss right now." Use first statements to keep the focus on your experience rather than making accusatory claims. Try these lines first in low-stakes settings, with a trusted friend, in a role-play exercise with a therapist, or during a short conversation with someone neutral. Test changes gradually and watch for responses. Introduce small, reversible experiments. Volunteer to share one personal preference in a team meeting, wear a different style of clothing for a week, or post about a hobby in a closed online group before updating a public profile. Keep the experiments time-limited so you can step back if needed. When pushback occurs, have a simple plan, name the boundary, state the need, and opt for a pause if emotions escalate. For example, if a family member reacts negatively to a personal disclosure, you might say, "First hear you. First want to continue this later when we can both be calm," and then leave the conversation. Build a safety net as you shift your outward presentation. Develop relationships with one or two trusted people who can offer honest feedback and emotional backup. Professional support, such as counseling, coaching, or peer support groups, provides practice and perspective without immediate personal cost. Documenting conversations or keeping a private journal helps you track what feels sustainable over time. Digital caution is important too. When adjusting online personas, review privacy settings, consider posting in smaller communities first, and separate personal content from professional accounts. Pay attention to your emotional and physical signals while experimenting. Simple grounding techniques like deep breaths, brief walks, or a short timeout can reduce the immediate stress of being more authentic. Expect discomfort. That does not mean you are making a mistake. If a change leads to real harm, such as harassment or job risk, reassess and choose a different pace or strategy. In environments where power dynamics or cultural norms make openness risky, prioritize safety and seek allies or institutional protections before proceeding. Over time, small, intentional steps add up. Consistent, modest moves toward honesty often improve trust in close relationships and reduce the internal effort of maintaining a mask. Progress is rarely linear. Be prepared to adjust, regroup, and continue practicing, using deliberate experiments and supports to help authenticity grow in ways that feel both true and safe. We've seen that wearing a social mask is often a practical response. It helps us meet expectations, keep us safe, and try on different sides of ourselves. At the same time, constant or rigid masking can leave us feeling distant or tired. Simple awareness, naming the roles you play, noticing when a mask feels heavy, and choosing small changes, can help you move between authenticity and social necessity with more ease. You've probably worn a mask at a job interview, when meeting a partner's family, or when posting a carefully edited version of your life online. Those moments show both why masks exist and how they can be adjusted. Try one small experiment this week, soften one interaction by saying a little more of what you really think, or notice how your tone shifts in different settings. If this resonated, share a brief experience in the comments and subscribe to follow along. In upcoming videos we will look at practical steps for being more genuine in daily life and how different cultures shape the masks we wear. Thank you for watching and for bringing your attention to this quiet, important part of being human.